Welcome, everybody, to Channel 1349. I'm your host, Will Judson Jr. I'm joined along with my father, William Judson Sr., and we're happy to bring you sports topics on a day-to-day basis. This is our first episode, so bear with us as we iron the kinks out and get this thing started. So I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself first, Judson Sr., and then I'll talk a little bit about me and, why we decided to do this channel. But you go ahead and, tell us about what you got going on out there in Atlanta.
Well, I just want to say hello to everybody. First of all, I've just been about football all my life. Growing up in the Atlanta area, playing Little League football, played high school football, was fortunate enough to get an athletic academic scholarship to South Carolina State, played football there, and was blessed to get drafted by the Dolphins back in 1981 as a cornerback. So right now, I'm also coaching a girls flag football team in a high school, doing a little, basically retired, but, just to have something to do. I'm in the school system, Douglas County school system. So I'm just rumped and ready to go talking this sports talk with you. So tell us about yourself.
Well, as you all know, I'm William Judson Jr. That's my father, and so I've been around football all my life. Ended up playing football at the University of Illinois. Had a tryout with the Detroit Lions. Went up to Canada, tried to make it up there, but at that point I figured, I'm tired of playing football. They weren't cutting me the check like that. If I would have had a huge signing bonus, maybe I would have found a way to stick it out. But, the whole trying to stay in shape just in case somebody calls you and being a free agent, I don't think I love the game that much to do all that. So I decided to do a bunch of different things after that. So I've been involved in college athletics, and now I'm working in insurance. I'm living out here in Houston. So pretty much the main reason why we decided to do this podcast was because, as the football season progresses, even outside of football, basketball, baseball, whatever it is, we're always having conversations on the phone, heated debates, hour long, 2 hours, no matter. I mean, it's always a long time where it's just good conversation. And then we were thinking to ourselves, we should be creating content out of this because as much as we find it entertaining, we're almost positive that you all will find it entertaining as well. So this is more of a view on sports from an athlete's point of view, but also father and son debating and just having good conversation on sports and other topics as well. So we'll see how this thing goes. What we wanted to do is launch a podcast and a YouTube channel. So we'll have both. We haven't decided how often or how frequent we're going to release this thing, but we plan on providing you all with a lot of content.
Yeah, definitely. And in addition to father and son, it's old school, new school, because, we get into a lot of these discussions and, he's telling me the way it is and I'm telling him the way it is. So we look forward to getting into these conversations and, and I'll show you, out there in the audience that, hey, I know what I'm talking about. And, the youngsters just still learning.
There you have it. So I think the first thing that we can probably talk about, being that it's Monday and we just finished up a huge NFL Sunday, we could talk about the NFL. But before we jump into the NFL, what we plan on doing each time we have this podcast or this show is talking about where we are in the Circa Million Pro Football Contest. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Circa Millions Pro Football Contest is, first of all, it's a sports book, a casino in Las Vegas, and it's the name of this casino / sports book is Circa. And Circa has a football contest every year where you enter the contest at the beginning of the season, you pay a fee to enter that contest, and you have to pick 5 NFL football games against the spread each week. So you have to pick 5. You can't pick the totals. You can't pick player props. It's only against the spread picks. And what happens is whoever has the best record at the end of the year is the one that takes home the big prize. Now, they do make it more interesting because if you think about the payout structure for the whole season, there's over $6 million that are guaranteed. But for the big prize at the end of the season, first place gets $1 million. Uh, and then for places 2 through 100, they award about $3.65 million. But then you can also win each quarter. So for the first quarter, second, third, and fourth, they have about $300,000 in total prizes that they give out each time. So every 4 to 5 weeks. So um, just to keep it, just to talk about a little bit how much more interesting this is. Even if you happen to come in last place in the quarter, the person that comes in last place wins $100,000. So it's a nice payout structure. It gives you a chance to see how good you are as far as picking these games against the spread and win some money at the same time. So, tell us a little bit, Dad. I'll go ahead and call you Dad. Tell us a little bit about how you're doing so far this year in Circa Millions.
Well, through the current week, let's see, I have 37 points plus 3 games so far this week. I'm 3-1 with a game tonight against the Bengals. I took the Bengals -6 over the Cowboys. But right now, my record is 40-28 with 1 tie. Okay, and that's probably about 58%. And I tell you, in looking at and doing this, to be successful, you have to be at least 52%, 52.4.
That's in
So
sports betting in general, correct?
that's in sports betting in general. And I'll tell you, but the winners, the ones that's going to win the big money, they're up into the mid 60s, close to 70. So got a lot of ground to make up. But right now, I'm proud of what I've been doing. At least I'm over uh, the what do you call that? The line to be successful in general in sports betting, but still got a long ways to go. How about you? How you doing, son?
It sounds like you have the records pulled up, like you looked that up. So just go ahead and look mine up. I know what was I 32-33 going into this week, and I'm 2-2 so far. So that would mean I'm 34-35. That's what it is. I'm not quite sure what that winning percentage is. It's probably about 48-49%. Um, you guys do the math. 32-33. The crazy part about this is, I like to look at myself as being sharp, but I will say that I've just had some bad breaks this year. Ball bouncing this way, that way, and he's been a little bit luckier this year. And as he always likes to say, he'd rather be lucky than good. But I feel like the way I handicap these games, in the long run, when you look at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 year runs, my percentage will be with the best of them. So, so far this weekend, I'm 2-2. And I'm on the Bengals as well tonight against Dallas at -6. So, that's the
Well,
crazy part about it.
yeah, and a lot of times we try not to fade each other, which means basically go against each other. But we happen to do it this week. And, old Young Buck took the Falcons plus 5.5 at Minnesota. Didn't see how that would work. And it turned out the Vikings just put it on 42-21. So that was one that we directly went against each other. But, you talk about luck versus skill and that sort of thing. Well, back in the old school, way of thinking, there's something that a lot of these young bucks don't have, and that's called a hunch. You can look at all these analytics and you can listen to these podcasts, what people say and giving their opinions, this, that, and the other. But you know what? Sometimes you just got to throw all that out the window and just go what you know, what you feel in your gut. And that's one thing that a lot of these young people, they just don't, they're just so into these analytics and computers and, hey, this person is 8-2 against the spread and all of this kind of stuff. I don't really believe in that. What I believe in is what my eyes see and what my mind thinks. So that helps me with my picks. And that might be where I'm winning right now. You can call it luck. He calls it skill. But I'd rather be lucky and over 500 than skillful and under 500.
Yep, and I mean, as you can see, he's feeling good. He can talk like that right now because he happens to be up. But we will see how things finish up for the rest of the season. We have a few more weeks to go, and then we'll see how this thing goes next year and the year after that. I plan on doing it every single year. So before we jump into the picks, I just want to get a little bit more specific with you guys about what these full season prizes look like. So first place is $1 million, second place 500 grand, third place is 400 grand, and it goes down in tiers: 350, 300, 250, 200, 150, 100. 90, and that's first place through 10th place. 11th place through 100th places total out at about $1.3 million, and then last place gets 100,000, and second to last gets 50,000. So that's for the whole season. For the quarter, first place gets 150, second place 60, 40, 15, 10, 25, and then 1.2 million is the total for each quarter as far as the prizes are concerned. So this is a very important week because it's the last quarter, and I'm already off to a bad start. I'm 2-2. He's 3-1. By the way, Circa, I wore this hat today just to show y'all a little love. My dad was able, when he went out there and registered us, he was able to talk you all into giving us 2 hats, and so I decided to wear this hat. If you ever want to throw us a sponsorship for this podcast, we're more than open to that. I'll wear the hat every time if I have to, but so I did want to wear that hat just to show everybody that this contest is the real deal. But let's go ahead and jump into these picks. So we both chose that Falcons and Vikings game. You live out in Atlanta right now. You grew up a Falcons fan, so I know there is some bias your way when it comes to picking the Falcons. But tell us what team you chose and kind of what made you come to that decision.
Well, the thing about the Falcons, I've been kind of looking at their trends, and this thing with Kirk Cousins is just going downhill. Now he was hot at the beginning of the year, but lately he has really, really been a bummer. Last week versus the Vikings, last week versus the Chargers, he went out and just threw 4 interceptions. He single-handedly cost them that game, although one person can't cost anybody the game. But the way that I look at it is, had he played better, they would have still been in first place in the division. So I couldn't really go with that. And I know he's going back up to Minnesota. It's a homecoming for him. I just felt like Minnesota would have to be too much for him. I felt like the Falcons, the defensive backs, could not hold Jordan Addison. They could not hold, what's the other receiver in the 18? The
Justin
best receiver.
Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson, they could not hold him. And the defensive coordinator, he has got Minnesota's defense playing very, very well. They blitz a lot, and Kirk Cousins just does not he doesn't handle the blitz well. So I just thought that I can't go with the Falcons, and that was one of the ones that I picked against, and I'm glad I did. Got me out to a good start.
Okay, well, let me talk a little bit about why I chose the Falcons. I've been saying it all year. I'm not a Falcons fan like that. I would be happy if they won a Super Bowl because I grew up in the Atlanta area. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm not a big Falcons homer. But I took the emotion out of it, and I tried to bet the Falcons. And my reasoning behind betting the Falcons was, number one, they've been playing terrible lately. Tampa is right on their heels. This was almost a must-win for the Falcons. Kirk Cousins hasn't played well in a month, and I'm thinking because he's a professional, we're going back to Minnesota against your former team, that he would play better than what he did. And so I was completely wrong. Looking at the Vikings, they had been playing close games against teams that we would think are not as good as the Falcons the last few weeks. And they just, the Falcons, early on it looked good, and then everything fell out in the second half. And so that kind of brings me to the next conversation I want to have with you. Number one, we talked about this earlier. That's it. I'm done with the Falcons. They're on my blacklist. We only got 3 or 4 more weeks left in the season. I'm done betting the Falcons because you can't trust them. But it starts up top with the ownership, and that's what I want to pause the picks conversation and talk a little bit about the Falcons. It starts from the top and it goes down. I'm of the opinion that the Falcons should have gotten Bill Belichick. He wanted to be the Falcons coach this summer. It didn't happen. And the reason why, from what I was reading, from reports that I was reading, the reason why they didn't hire Bill Belichick is because down there in Atlanta, they want to have a collaborative effort. They want everybody to be nice, play in the sandbox. You make this decision. You talk to me about this decision. We all come into agreement. And the way I came up in football, that's not how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to have one guy, the head coach is supposed to run everything, and the GM, in my opinion, should help the coach. But you've got to give the coach what he needs to be successful. And that's just something that the GM in Atlanta, I can't think of his name right now. What's his name?
I
Terry
forgot his
Fontenot.
name.
That's it. Terry Fontenot.
Yeah,
That's
right.
his name. Terry Fontenot. And so I think what happened is Arthur Blank wanted Bill Belichick. Blank talked to Rich McKay, who acts like he's not really the GM and he's doing another position, but we know he's really making all the decisions and blaming it on someone else. Rich McKay, Terry Fontenot, they all talked and decided, you know what? We don't want to bring Bill Belichick in here because he's going to take over and he knows more than us. Because when you think about it, and to be honest, how can they even interview Bill Belichick? He should be interviewing them as far as if he were to come and do the job. So what's happened is they hire Raheem Morris, who to me is a coach that is as average as they come. He's a guy where he didn't have too much success in Tampa, and he was out there in LA with Sean McVay as a D coordinator, and they thought because Sean McVay is a great coach that would rub off on Raheem Morris. They brought him back to Atlanta. And I can argue right now, because you've got the quarterback, you've got more players on defense, you've got your weapons on offense. I can argue that this team is underachieving just as much as they're no better than they were when they had Arthur Smith. And Arthur Smith didn't even have a quarterback. So I think that's the biggest problem.
Well, let me just go over one thing with you. Okay. As far as Bill Belichick is concerned, I think there were like 7 or 8 pro football teams that were looking for head coaches. And why is it that nobody hired him? Now he is a great football coach. He probably, if he gets another job, he probably will break my coach, Don Shula, who the winningest coach in football. He probably will break his record. But, you can't really blame the Falcons like that. And that's what I'm talking about right there. We don't know what would have happened had Bill Belichick become the coach. What we can say is that one of the reasons why he wasn't hired is because Bill Belichick's a control freak. Now, sure, he's won a lot of Super Bowls, but then again, he's made a lot of people miserable. His own owner, so I hear, his own owner didn't really recommend him. As a matter of fact, the owner of the Patriots, Bob Kraft is his last name, talked to Arthur Blank. And they talked had many conversations. Arthur Blank, trust me, the buck stops with him. So if he can get with whomever he wants to on his staff, the GM, the head coach, secretaries, his wife, he makes that decision. And after talking to Robert Kraft, he just decided, you know what? I can't deal with him because you may win, but Bill Belichick, so I hear, is the type of coach who wants full control. He wants to know, he will probably bring his own secretary, the security guards, people that he trusts, and he would put everybody down in Atlanta on edge. Now, if they're going to win, that might be fine. And they won up in New England. But as soon as there was a chance for a mutual departure between the Patriots and Bill Belichick, it happened. So I don't know what would have happened. But I do know this. There were other teams, nobody hired him. And there were some teams that needed head coaches. So you can't just look at the Falcons like that.
We're in a different age in the NFL where that's not what they want to do anymore. They want more collaborative efforts. That's the problem with the NFL. And you look at the teams that didn't hire them, none of them are doing good. So yes, well, if you don't want somebody to be a control freak, then maybe you shouldn't hire him. But at the point that Arthur Blank is at, he's getting older, he's getting up there in age. He just wants to win one Super Bowl. Why wouldn't you hire Bill Belichick for the next couple years, 2 or 3 years? You know he wants to break the record, and then let him go about his way. But if you don't want to win, it doesn't matter. And I promise you, you can act like you don't know, but if Bill Belichick was coaching the Falcons, they would have at least 2 more wins than what they have right now. They're 6 and
I
7.
don't know. I don't really know if they would have, because had he been the coach, maybe some of the free agents that they got might not have come, and maybe some of the players might not have played as well, because Bill Belichick has a different style of coaching. I mean, so I can't say that. I mean, you're sitting there saying that, but I can't say that.
Who's the better coach, Raheem Morris or Bill Belichick?
Bill Belichick. Who would have won more games this year, Raheem Morris or Bill? I don't know. We don't know. Bill Belichick's not coaches anywhere.
So does coaching count for anything, or that doesn't matter? Coaching doesn't deliver wins. How much better do you think Bill Belichick is than Raheem Morris?
Leap years as far as coaching ability, but as far as having players play for him and want to win, I don't know. I don't know. You got to have a combination of both of them.
Well, I know that Bill Belichick has won 7 Super Bowls, so somebody was playing for him. Maybe if you don't think the players play for him, then that's what you think. But I'm just saying, when you look at the grand scheme of things, you might not like Bill Belichick, but when you look at the difference between him and Raheem Morris, it's got to at least equate to one more win. You said he's leap years ahead of him.
You're right, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they would have won more games just because he's a better coach. Okay, it's how the players react to that coaching. And as a matter of fact, when the Falcons jumped all over these teams and was leading the division, nobody was talking about Raheem Morris, and nobody was talking about Bill Belichick. Well, you know what? You can say that all you want to, but guess what? Nobody else wanted to hire him either. Nobody. And as a matter of fact, I don't even know if somebody want to hire him next year, because guess what? He's interviewing for a college job.
And guess what? Nobody wanted to hire Mike Vrabel. Is Mike Vrabel a good coach?
He's okay. He's okay. Not. Apparently, he's not. He's under the Bill Belichick tree.
Just because you don't get hired in one hiring cycle doesn't mean nobody wanted you. It just wasn't the right situation.
Let me tell you, as great as you say Bill Belichick is, and he is a great coach, as soon as he became available, they should have been knocking his door down. That didn't happen. And there's a reason for that. I don't really know what the reason is.
We just talked about the reason. It's not because of coaching ability. We just talked about the reason. It's because these owners nowadays they want more of a collaborative effort. They don't want somebody coming in there running their whole building. They don't like that.
Well, what about the Chiefs? I think Andy Reid probably runs everything up there.
And they're okay with that. They're okay with it. You see them winning?
Okay, yeah. But then again, look at some of these other teams that's winning. Look at the Eagles that's winning. Do you think their head coach is running things? No.
The Eagles ain't won nothing. They haven't won anything.
Yeah, but the Eagles, did they win a championship?
No, not with that coach. No.
Nick Sirianni, okay, but look, they're having a successful season, though. They're having a successful season.
I can name plenty of teams.
Sean McVay is not running the thing totally like that.
He's running everything. He's running everything out there. He's just like Kyle Shanahan. Those type of coaches are running everything.
Well, Kyle Shanahan ain't won none either. How about that?
He's been to multiple Super Bowls. Raheem Morris will never go to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, we don't know.
Never. He will never go. He's not going to the Super Bowl. How much you want to bet that he's not going to the Super Bowl with the Falcons?
Well, you know what? Bill Belichick ain't going nowhere this year either. And he may end up being coaching in college. And why is that? Why is that? Why would nobody want to? Why wouldn't the Dallas Cowboys say, hey, Bill,
their season is not over? Who knows? They might. He's looking at North Carolina because their season is over now. He wants to see how much money they're going to pay. College is like the NFL now. And if anything.
So you think he's all about money? You think Belichick, don't he have enough money? You think he's coaching for money?
Let me finish. College is more like the NFL now, and college still gives you that control. Now, NIL is a little different. That's what makes it like the NFL. But what I'm saying is he just likes coaching. It doesn't matter if it's NFL, college, whatever. He likes coaching, period. And so if they want to act crazy in the NFL and not hire him, then go coach in college. Nick Saban did it.
Yeah, and you know what? And Nick Saban's out of there. And I'm surprised Nick Saban didn't tell him, Bill, this is not for you. It's not for you. Bill is not going to get out on the recruiting trail. Do you think he's going to do that? Come on now. Do you think he can relate to those players the way that, they need to be related to? These players nowadays in college are just like pro players. A lot of these, some of these, they make it almost as much as the coach. Come on now, you ain't gonna be able to tell. I don't see that being a fit for him at the University of North Carolina. I think
I
he'll
think you're
end up in the
sadly
NFL.
mistaken. I think you're
Okay.
sadly mistaken because if my son was coming out of high school right now and Bill Belichick offered him a scholarship at North Carolina, which is a good education too, I would say go play for Bill Belichick. He's going to
No,
instill discipline in you.
no,
He's
no.
gonna also prepare you. He's the best coach ever in the NFL. I would say go play for Bill Belichick, and I think those kids would be the same way.
And just remember, your son is also my grandson. It would depend on what other offers he has. He doesn't just automatically just go to North Carolina. No, he might have some other offers. He might have Alabama. He might have University of Southern California. He might have Notre Dame. He can have a lot of. He might have something from Harvard. Who knows? So we have to compare that to what Bill Belichick is offering at North Carolina.
All I'm saying is, it's not a situation of he can't relate to the kids. That has nothing to do with it. Those kids will go play for Bill Belichick just like they went and played for Nick Saban. It's the same thing.
Okay, well, let's see. Right now, he's unemployed. So we had to go with that.
Yep. And Raheem Morris is the better coach. We'll go ahead and move on.
Nobody said he's the better coach. I think both of us agree he's not the better coach. But then again, the team's success doesn't necessarily have to have the better coach.
Okay, this team was expected to win the division, and now they're in second place. So do you consider this season right now for them a success?
Which team was expected to win the division?
The Falcons.
No. Tampa was.
No, they weren't. No, they were not.
Yep.
No, they weren't. Listen,
Yep.
let me tell you something. We can go back and pull the odds right now. The Falcons were favored by Vegas to win the division. You want me to pull the odds?
We're not talking about Vegas. We're talking about
No.
No.
You're saying that now because they're losing, but everybody on TV was talking about how this team was supposed to win the division. Tampa won the division last year. The Falcons didn't have Kirk Cousins. Don't even try that. The Falcons were supposed to win this division.
Okay.
They had the shortest odds. So I'm gonna ask you again: is this a successful season so far?
The season's not over, and they still could win the division.
Is
Absolutely.
it so? If the season ended today, would this be considered a good job by Raheem Morris and the Falcons?
I think they'll have a better record than they had last year. So that's a step up. That's a step
maybe.
up.
They won 7 games last year. They only have 6 right now. They might lose the rest of their games.
Well, they might win the rest of them. The way the Falcons are.
We know Tampa is.
Tell.
We know Tampa probably gonna win there. So it's embarrassing. It's just embarrassing all along.
Well, we'll see. That remains to be seen. And you're talking all that stuff about. I tell you what, Belichick. I kind of wanted him, but then when I thought about the big picture, everybody in the building, they said that sometimes that he'd be walking in the building and coming down the hall, not speaking to people, and people jumping out the way, keeping everybody on edge. Nobody wants to live like that. That's not like that with Andy Reid. It's not like that with Andy Reid. It's not like that. Andy Reid is not that type of person. So you gotta have a combination of it. And had he not had Tom Brady, we wouldn't even be talking about Bill Belichick.
And if Andy Reid didn't have Patrick Mahomes, he never would have won a Super Bowl.
I don't know about that.
He never would have won a Super Bowl.
I don't know about that.
He hadn't won one until he got Patrick Mahomes. So what do you mean? He's been coaching for 20 years.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's okay. And Belichick had one until he got Tom Brady.
Okay, so we can talk about that all we want. And guess what? Don Shula didn't win one with Dan Marino. So it's not just the quarterback, it's the combination.
But he won 2 with Bob Greasy.
Yeah, but he didn't win. But as good as you say Dan Marino is, he didn't win one with them. So I don't want to hear nothing about if he didn't have Brady. I don't want to hear that because Andy Reid didn't win nothing before he had Patrick Mahomes, and then Don
Yeah.
Shula didn't win with Dan Marino. So it's a combination of the both. I don't want to hear that argument about the quarterback.
Let's just end on this, but you end this conversation because you're talking about a ghost situation. Bill Belichick's not coaching, but there's an old saying, and this is old school. Okay, you don't win with X's and O's. You win with Jimmys and Joes. So if you're the players, you can have less coaching, but if you have less players, it'd be harder for you to win with great coaching. X's and O's cannot beat Jimmys and Joes.
Okay, that's your opinion. I think it's a combination of both.
Oh, absolutely. But if you look at
It's not
heavy
one or
on
the
one
other.
side and if it's heavy on one side, heavy, I'd rather have the Jimmys and Joes.
Okay, so let me ask you something. When the Patriots won the Super Bowl, I think it was in 2001, when they played the Rams, who had the better team? The Rams with Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, Isaac Bruce, all of those guys, or the Patriots with this young quarterback named Tom Brady and nobody hardly on offense? Who had the better team then?
Well, if you want to look at a situation like that, I think the coaches in that situation, because that was a close game, if I'm not mistaken. You know, the coaching, the little coaching things, came into effect, and they actually did win. And there's the thing.
Okay, so the Jimmys and Joes lost.
Well, you know what? They don't always win. That's what they call it, an upset.
It goes back and forth.
No.
It's not. It's that's not the case. Jimmys and Joes makes a big difference in college, but in the NFL, for the most part, it's got to be both. You got to have the coaches too.
Oh, of course you got to have. I didn't say you can have a numbskull at the coach position, but then again, if with all things being equal, Jimmys and Joes would beat X's and O's.
It'll never be equal. It'll never be equal. You're never gonna have the same coaching ability on each sideline every time. That's never gonna happen. You'll never have the same. You never have the same players.
Yeah. Right.
So what are we talking about right now?
You got to have a nice combination. Okay, look at it like this. I would say 60% coaching. 60% players, 40% coaching. If you got that, you got a winner.
Okay, well, let's just go back to this past season. Who had more talent, the Niners or the Chiefs in the Super Bowl this past year?
Well, it's probably about the same.
Oh, get out of here. The Niners had more talent.
Because when you look at the most important position on the field, quarterback, he was leap years better than Purdy.
He didn't play well in the Super Bowl. He didn't play well in the Super Bowl.
It doesn't matter, but his presence. See, that's one thing, too, that, you and I often talk about. And, they had 4 turnovers. Well, you know what? They weren't playing against air. Somebody made them turn it over. And even if it was self-inflicted, just the presence of the other team and their reputation puts fear into the hearts of the other team. So, that's a part of it, too. Chiefs had all that experience. 49ers got a coach who's known for blowing.
Don't talk about the coaching. Don't talk about the coaching. Remember, it's a Jimmys and Joes thing for you, so the coaching doesn't matter.
No,
don't talk about the coaching.
I said 60-40.
Listen,
if I say 40% is coaching. You got to have some coaching.
Okay, well, let me tell you this. In that Super Bowl, I felt like 55-45, 60-40, the Niners had more weapons than the Chiefs on offense and defense. That's my opinion. They had the better running back, the better receivers, the tight end. You can give it to Kansas City, but George Kittle is good. On defense, they had Bosa, Fred Warner. They got a lot of players. So to me, the Niners had the better players and the Chiefs had the better coaching. And that's who won.
Patrick Mahomes, they had the better coach and the better quarterback, and they had the better defensive coordinator. So they had the.
Don't talk about coaching. Don't talk about the coaching. Don't talk about the coaching.
And they had the best cornerback on the field, and and they had they had some weapons, man. They did.
The 49ers, top to bottom, is the more talented team. The Chiefs are just better coached. And like I said, the coaching matters. You don't think coaching matters as much.
No, I said 60-40. You make it seem like you could just have Charlie Brown out there coaching. No, you got to have some good coaching. Anyway, we'll
Well,
see.
each example I named, the coaching plays a big factor, but you know, it is what it
Okay.
is.
Yep.
We'll go through the rest of these picks real quick. My second pick that I had was the Pittsburgh Steelers -7 against Cleveland. I just thought this was the classic revenge game for the Steelers.
You- have-
I picked the Steelers in this game -7 against Cleveland. I thought this was a classic revenge game for the Steelers. They just played the Browns a couple weeks ago and lost, and I just thought this was a perfect spot for them. They've won 21 straight in Pittsburgh in the regular season against the Browns, so I took them, and they covered easily for me. What about you? What was your second pick?
My second pick was Tampa Bay -7. Who did they play? I can't remember who they played.
The Raiders.
The Raiders. Yeah, Tampa Bay -7, and they were at home, and I figured that they're coming up on the Falcons, and they're on a roll, and they had Mike Evans and their other receivers, so they were fully loaded, and it started off a little shaky, but it ended up covering, I think, 28-13, so they won by 15. So that was kind of an easy pick for me.
Yeah, I mean the Raiders are a classic example. We just talked about Jimmy's and Joe's and coaching, and the Raiders had neither. We've talked about this before. What's his name? Antonio Pierce. He is Art Shell Jr. Yep, and I said it, Art Shell Jr. So, not a good coach. Doesn't know what he's doing.
Wait a minute now. What do you mean by that? Our shell had a winning percentage. What are you talking about?
Art Shell was not a good coach. You want me to pull up his stats?
Yeah, you pull up his stats because Art Shell won Super Bowl.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
Okay.
Art Shell is not a Super Bowl winning coach. Are you kidding me right now?
Okay, let me tell you something. He definitely had a winning percentage. He may not have won a Super Bowl, but Art Shell, don't you take it like that now.
Okay, my bad. I won't call him Art Shell. Antonio Pierce is Raheem Morris's brother.
No. Let's talk about Art Shell. What's Art Shell's record?
He's 58-55 as a coach.
Okay. Now, that's a winning percentage. Has he won a Super Bowl?
Absolutely not. I don't even need to look that up. When had the Raiders been to the Super Bowl besides in 2000 when they had I can't think of the offensive line coach's name. Who was the head coach?
Well, they had
Bill
Jim
Callahan.
Plunkett.
Bill Callahan.
Jim Plunkett. And
he
all
wasn't
them.
coaching them then.
No. He played there probably.
Yeah, but as a coach, he didn't come close to the Super Bowl.
But Antonio Pierce, it's not even as good as.
It's actually disrespectful. I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. Well, anyway. Yeah. Anyway, so that was my second pick. Now the next pick that I had, which lost for me, was Buffalo -3.5 at the Rams, and I just thought that Josh Allen was so hot, and this team would play respectable enough defense because remember the Falcons, or was it the Dolphins? One of those teams went out there and beat the Rams. And I just said, come on now. The Rams are having a rough season now. Now I know they're kind of getting into the groove and they have a really good offensive coach. But you know what? I just thought Buffalo would win that game. It ended up being 44-42. Neither one of them could stop it. But I was really surprised at Buffalo's defense giving up all those points. So that was a loser for me. So, hey, you can't win them all. And then the last one, I just wanted to say my last pick was San Francisco -4 at home. Now, who they play? I can't remember who they played. San Francisco, the 49ers?
The Bears.
Okay, the Bears. That was a gimme. They smoked the Bears. They were leading 28-0 at one time, and that's even without Christian McCaffrey. So that has me 3-1 going into tonight's game with Cincinnati Bengals -6 over the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, and then my last couple of picks, I had Philadelphia. I don't know why I took that. I should have known with that great coach Nick Sirianni, who you just talked about, that they wouldn't cover a large number like that at home. And so the Panthers played well again. They actually had a chance to win that game, but Philly didn't come close to covering that number. So that's my bad for thinking I could lay a heavy number at -12.5 and they would cover it. And then I took the Miami Dolphins. I had to sweat that one the whole game, and I was just telling myself, there's a reason that I always try to fade the Dolphins, and there's a reason why I try to fade that coach. This team got outplayed all game, and just because they're much more talented than the Jets, they were able to eke it out in overtime and get that backdoor cover from me or for me. But I wasn't happy at all, and I was telling my dad earlier, I was so mad at them because they weren't playing well that I wanted them to not cover and lose just to teach them a lesson because I'm sick of the Dolphins. It's an ongoing issue with them. This team is soft. They don't have a coach that's a leader of men. And what I mean by that is somebody that's going to come in and command the respect that the players want to listen to and actually play. A perfect example of this, I think he's on his third or fourth D coordinator since he's been there, the head coach. And they ran Vic Fangio out of town because he was too hard on the players. He was, he demands too much from them for practice. And now you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's exactly what's been winning them the football games. Their defense. Yes, they have Saquon Barkley, and they can run the football, but they haven't been great on offense this year. It's been their defense. They probably have the best defense in the league right now, and the Dolphins got rid of them. So we're just talking about a team that I feel is going nowhere. They're not going to make the playoffs. They don't win in cold weather. They're front runners. They beat on bad teams. They win early in the season, and then at the end of the season, we see what really comes out of them. So before I move to my next game, you got anything to say about your team?
Well, I just want to say this, and this is why people out there listen to what he said. He said he's done betting the Falcons, and he's done betting the Dolphins. That's why I have a 5.5 game lead on him. That will be 6.5 tonight because we both got the same team. I already got a game up on him. And because you can never say never. Each game is an individual game. You have to look at the motivation of the players. You can't go by, the coaching is bad, I'm always going to fade them. And he's been saying that all year, but he continues to bet with or against the Dolphins. Sometimes you just have to leave it alone. Just look at the game for itself and never say, I would never do this again, because that can cost you.
Okay, how do you feel about the Dolphins overall? That's the more important question. What do you think about their team?
I'm disappointed. But you know what? I understand injuries happen, but had Tua not gotten hurt, they'll be in a better position.
My gosh.
They'll be in a better position. But let me tell you something. For some reason, they cannot beat Buffalo, so they would not have won a division, but they would be firmly entrenched in the playoff race had Tua not gotten injured. But you know what? I agree with you. They don't seem to be tough. They don't seem to, they can't win the big game, especially if it's cold. And you try to say it's on Tua. It's on the Dolphins. It's on the Dolphins. It's not just
the coach.
Tua.
It's the coach.
Okay, when I played down in Miami, we did not. Now, we won some games in the cold, but we just had such superior coaching talent. And, had some pretty good players. Oh, well, hey, we had some superior coaching and we had good players. So you know what? But the thing about it is, I'm very disappointed in the Dolphins. I doubt if they're going to make the playoffs. If they do, they're going to have to sweep all their games and they're going to go on the road and most likely it's going to be somewhere cold. And I don't have confidence in them. So I wouldn't be saying, if I'm going to bet with or against the Dolphins, I don't know, but I never say never, like you're saying.
Well, my approach moving forward, and and even though I talk, sometimes it's just out of emotions. I will bet a team if I see a good number. But
okay.
I got to get back to my formula, which is only betting good coaches and quarterback combinations. And I think I'll be in a better situation if I do that. But I always stray away from that.
Well, you're less than 500. You're 49. It might be 48. I don't know. That's not good. But you're thinking it might be good because all you got to do is do 52 and you're successful. Well, I'm not successful unless we can get into that thing and get to the top. So 56.9 right now, 58, that's not good enough.
there you have it. And then my my next pick that I had um it's the Cincinnati Bengals, and that's the game that's going to be tonight. Um, talk a little bit about let's talk about the Bengals and the Cowboys. Um, what made you choose Cincinnati tonight at -6?
Well, I just think that the Dallas Cowboys are on a downward spiral, and they may be considering some big time changes, either coaching or trying to get another quarterback, because I don't think they're really happy with Dak Prescott. They're certainly not happy about the amount of money they got to pay him. You've got a lot of infighting in the locker room. And then you get the Cincinnati Bengals, who are actually, I think they may even be in, well, they're not in playoff contention. Well, they can get in playoff
They
contention.
got the same record as the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins have
Okay.
won one more game.
Okay. Well, that's not the same record. But anyway, if that's the case,
Same
they
situation.
they got a sit they got a chance. So, and they've got talented. They got a lot of talent on offense, especially, and got some talent on defense. And the coach, you go back and forth on whether the coach is a good coach or not a good coach. But I just think that Cincinnati has more to fight for the win than Dallas. I think Dallas actually might be trying to lose. So Cincinnati, that's why I got them -6, but you never know in this game.
Well, for me, the reason why I picked Cincinnati, and I just want to preface this and let all the viewers know, I held my nose picking them because, like you just said, I'm not sold on Zach Taylor. We talked about how soft the Dolphins are. The Bengals are even softer than them. They have no physicality up front. They play no defense. And being that they have this offensive minded coach, I would love to just go to their practices and see how they're practicing. I've been a part of different teams where you've got an offensive minded coach. The practice is more geared towards them or the offense versus the defense. And so I'm sure they don't put the pads on at all. It's just a soft team in general. And even though, like you said, they have talent on defense, it doesn't matter because of how soft they play. And so they got Joe Burrow. I think he's got 30 touchdown passes to only 3 picks this year, something crazy like that. He's having a great year. They're moving the ball on offense. And so I think at the end of the day, that will be what gets them to cover that 6 against the Cowboys, because the Cowboys have had a little bit of success these last couple of weeks, but I don't think they can go up and down the field like the Bengals can, because Dallas isn't stopping anybody either. So I think the Bengals offense will be a little bit too much for Dallas tonight. Now, let's just park the conversation a little bit right here for Dallas. We got a lot of people that watch our show that like the Dallas Cowboys. We've talked a little bit about this. I personally think that it's not a coaching issue with Dallas. I think that it's a personnel issue. When Rico Dowdle is your starting running back, and then opposite of CeeDee Lamb, who we got, Jalen Torbert, whoever you want to name at receiver. The offensive line is starting to get a little old. They drafted a young tackle this year, but Zach Martin, guys like that, they're not playing as well as they did in the past. I personally think that on offense and defense, they don't have enough horses, and that finally came into fruition this year. The last couple of years, I felt like they actually overachieved and played better due to coaching. And I'm just thinking in my mind, I'm pretty sure that Mike McCarthy's going to be back, because they would have fired him by now. He's going to come back, and I think Jerry Jones understands that too, that they didn't do a good job assembling this team this year.
Well, I disagree with you again. I think Mike McCarthy is, playing out the string of the season, because the thing about it is this: you may be a good coach, you just might, but then again, it's gonna depend on who he can get. If he can get somebody like Belichick, who I don't see how that's gonna work, because Belichick is kind of like Parcells, and that really didn't work. I'm sure that he's talked to him a lot
Jimmy
about
Johnson, they're all like that.
it.
He ran Jimmy out of town.
But see, the thing about it is this: I don't think Belichick is the type of coach that wants his coaches, his owner, sitting up there having all the press conferences. Now, Bill doesn't like to do press conferences, but he certainly doesn't want somebody talking for him and his team, because sometimes, uh, he may feel like the coach is talking reckless, and he could give away some little tidbits of secrets. So I don't think that's going to work, but I do think that he's out. The current, my, he's gone. He's as good as gone, and he probably wants to leave too because he doesn't have the kind of clout and hadn't had the kind of success that he had when he was in Green Bay. So of course he didn't have the quarterback. He didn't have the quarterback.
They went 12-5 3 years straight. What do you mean? He's had more success than Sean Payton had at the end of New Orleans.
What about the playoffs? I'm talking about I'm talking about winning the Super Bowl and the playoffs. What
Sean
about
Payton
that?
hadn't won nothing, and he went and got that job with Denver. So, I mean, it's the same thing.
Sean Payton, what are you talking about? Sean Payton won a Super Bowl with the Saints.
And Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl with the Packers.
No, we talking about the team. We talking about the Cowboys. The Cowboys have underachieved. Now you can sit up there and say the regular
they won 12
season
games the last 3 years in a row.
and,
what are you talking about?
Getting knocked out in the first round. That was embarrassing last year. That was embarrassing.
That's not Mike McCarthy's fault. So I mean, he might get fired, but this is not his fault. What's going on this year?
Okay,
that's all I'm saying.
So whose fault is it?
Jerry Jones and the people that assembled the team. Him and his son put those players out there for them to coach. That's who needs to take the blame for this season.
I think that this year they purposely didn't offer people like Derrick Henry. They could have had Derrick Henry. They could have had some other players, but they purposely didn't do it because they're getting rid of the coach. They're going to get rid of the coach.
Okay, so that goes back to what I said. It's not his
gone.
fault then. That's fine. Okay, so it's not his fault.
No. If he's a great coach, you can coach what you got. Now, even with the players that they've had, they played poorly. They played poorly with the players that they've had. And remember, all these players are getting paychecks too. They're professional football players. They can show up a little bit better. Now, the injury bug has hit them, but his injuries are part of the game. Mike McCarthy has kind of lost the locker room. You're starting to hear, some of his stars.
They won the last 2 games. They beat Washington, who everybody crowned. And they won it with Cooper Rush at quarterback.
And let me tell you something.
Is that coaching or what is that? What is that?
Washington's not going very far either. Now I don't even know if they're going to win the first playoff game. They're going to be at home, but I don't know. If they have to play somebody like Minnesota, they might not beat Minnesota. Or if they have to play somebody like Seattle, they might not beat the Cardinals. So I'm not sold.
All I'm saying is the Dallas has turned the corner a little bit. I don't know if he's lost the locker room. They're playing better. That's all I'm saying.
What corner are you talking about? They turn the corner. They still in the ghetto. You can turn the corner all you want to. You are not. That coach is getting fired. They're probably trying to figure out a way to get Shedeur Sanders. I bet you.
Okay. So let me ask you this: the Dallas Cowboys are 5-7. And the Atlanta Falcons are 6-7. So what does that say about the Falcons and what they have going on?
They're better than Dallas because they beat Dallas.
But is that any kind of indictment on the Falcons? Because as bad as Dallas is, they're only 1 game behind the Falcons.
Well, it's a come up for the Falcons because the Falcons are going to finish with a better record than they did last year, and the Cowboys going to finish with a worse record. So it's a come up.
Okay, but all I'm saying is that what we're talking about right now with Dallas, they're on the same level as the Falcons.
They're not on the same level because they've lost more games. They're not on the same level.
No, they've lost the same amount of games.
Okay,
5-7 and 6-7. All I'm saying is they've lost the same amount of games, so they're on the same level.
What about after tonight?
And the Cowboys have Cooper Rush
after tonight. And you know what? Kirk Cousins is playing worse than Cooper Rush. Okay.
Okay, so the Falcons are stupid then. They gave him $180 million. They're stupid.
And the Cowboys are more stupid for giving Dak Prescott the amount of money they gave him. How about that?
Hey, at least the Cowboys go 12-5 with Dak Prescott.
Not this year they didn't.
Yeah, not this year. They didn't finish the season.
And when he was playing, they had a losing record. When he was playing, they did.
Okay, well, guess what? Dak Prescott has a better winning percentage than Kirk Cousins. Career.
They both won the same amount of playoff games.
Okay.
So, okay.
Actually, I don't. Right. That's not true. Actually. Kirk Cousins has only won 1 playoff game.
And how many? Dak Prescott 2?
At least two. At least. Look, all I'm saying is the Falcons were stupid for doing that.
And I think the Cowboys were more stupid for doing what they did. They did.
Okay, well, let me tell you the difference between Dak and Kirk Cousins. The Redskins or Commanders let Kirk Cousins walk. The Vikings let him walk. That should tell you all you need to know. The Vikings are better without him. They got Sam Darnold, and they're playing better without him. So that should tell if another team is letting the man walk and he's a quarterback in a quarterback-driven league, who's not playing better?
I don't know if he's playing better. Kirk Cousins had a good year last year. He got hurt.
The Vikings are 11-2. The Vikings are 11-2 this year with Sam Darnold.
The Vikings are not 11-2. Look up their record. The Vikings.
I'm looking at it right now.
The Vikings are not no 11-2.
Look it up. I'm looking at their record. What are you talking about?
Let me tell you something.
No. Look at their record. Look the record up.
Let me look it up. Okay, yeah, they're 11-2, and they are playing better.
That's better. That's better than any season that Kirk Cousins had while he was there.
I agree. I'm trying to see what they were last year because they had a pretty good record last year.
He was hurt last year. He didn't play.
They had a pretty good record and got upset by the Giants coming in.
No, that was 2 years ago.
Okay,
last year he was hurt.
Okay, Kirk Cousins. Okay, that's right. Kirk Cousins, I'm trying to look at the record that year because they had a pretty good year.
He's never won 11 games in Minnesota. He hasn't done that.
Well, you know what? There's a reason that Darnold has been bouncing around from team to team to team. And the same thing with Kirk Cousins.
They didn't pay Sam Darnold.
Okay, well, and neither did the Vikings.
The Falcons paid Kirk Cousins.
Well, you know what?
That's my point.
Okay, we kind of getting further off the subject. The subject is who's more stupid, the Cowboys for paying Dak or the Falcons for paying Kirk Cousins? And I would say they both right now look like bad moves, but Dallas's move is worse because they have a worse record than they did last year with that. And the Falcons have a better record than they had last year. So that's what makes
the Falcons
are
in the worst of, besides the AFC South, the worst division in football. And not only that, I'm going to tell you why the Falcons are more stupid. Because those idiots drafted Michael Penix in the same year. You gave him $180 million and then you drafted a quarterback. That is stupid. If that's what you were going to do, if that's what you were going to do, you should. If that's what you were going to do, if that's what you were going to do, then you should have just drafted a defensive lineman. There was no reason to draft pay Kirk Cousins and then draft Michael Penix. That was stupid.
Well, you know what? They put pressure on Kirk Cousins to play better. And he has played better in the beginning. They really need to just go on and in the beginning, he did play very well. They were leading the division.
But he's playing bad now when it counts.
He's playing bad. Now I think they need to move ahead on the Penix. And I'm glad they did that because guess what? Had they not taken Penix, they'd have ended up this year taking somebody like the University of Georgia's quarterback or either the joker from Texas, Ewers. No. Penix is better than both of them. And I'm glad that they took him. And the Falcons may still make the playoffs because Tampa is not a shoo-in. They will lay an egg on you.
The Falcons ain't making the playoffs.
As a matter of fact, let me see. Next week, I think they got a tough game.
Buccaneers' schedule is so easy.
Well, yeah, but next week they got a tough game. I think it's they might play the Chargers, and the Chargers got to win. You know, they got to win. I think that's who they play.
They got the Chargers in Tampa Bay.
They got the Chargers. Okay, and who do the Falcons have? The Falcons are going where?
Falcons are going to the Raiders.
The Falcons are going to the Raiders. Okay, now that's
I don't know if they'll beat the Raiders.
And certainly, but they will have a better chance of beating the Raiders then I think Tampa beating the Chargers.
Well, let me put it this way. If the Falcons don't make the playoffs, it's a travesty because I'm looking at their schedule. They play the Raiders, the Giants, the Commanders, and the Panthers. They need to win all those games.
Well, what do the Tampa play?
Tampa's going to play the Chargers, Dallas, Carolina, New Orleans. It's
Hey,
about the same.
yeah, but you know what? All the Falcons got to do is tie them and win because they swept them. So you know what? This is a big game for the Falcons next week because they need to beat the Raiders, and the Raiders are tough out there in Las Vegas. They need to beat them.
And
And
Desmond Ritter is going to be
you know what?
starting.
And you know what? And the Chargers, and the Chargers need to win too because they slipping. So that's gonna be a tough game.
Yeah. Desmond Ritter's going to want his get back this week for the Raiders. He's going to be ready.
Desmond Ritter is a joke.
Okay. So, just like you just said it, they better not lose this game.
Yeah, they need to win. It's a must-win game.
All right. So, any last thoughts before we move on to this college football bracket?
No, I mean I'm good on that. Hopefully we both can get a win tonight, and I can be 4-1 and you're 3-2, pulling further ahead of you, man. Come on now, you supposed to. You got all the analytics, but hey, it's not working out for you so far.
What's the saying? If you're not first, you last. So I mean, it'd be different if you was winning money. You're not winning money. You just have gotten a little lucky, but you're not winning right now either. So let's hope that you can win. Don't focus on me. Focus on the contest.
Oh, I'm not focusing on you. Trust me. Trust and believe.
Okay, so moving on to the college football playoff. They just released the bracket yesterday. Oregon is the number 1 seed, as we all expected. They've been number 1 for a while. Then Georgia's number 2, Boise State 3, Arizona State is 4. Those teams all have first-round byes, and then they'll host the playoff game after this first round concludes. And so we've got some interesting matchups that's gonna take place in this first round. Ohio State is the 8th seed, and they're playing Tennessee. In Ohio or at Ohio State, Texas and Clemson play at Texas, and then Penn State will host SMU, and Notre Dame will host Indiana. That'll be a good game. Both of those teams are cold weather teams, so should be a good matchup. But as far as Ohio State and Tennessee, who do you think is going to win that game? We'll start with that one.
Well, I'm gonna. That's a tough game, but being that it's at Ohio State, I'm gonna have to take the Buckeyes on that one, only because it's at home. Tennessee has an explosive offense, a quick start offense, but I just think Ohio State will be too much to handle, especially at home.
Okay,
about
yeah, I
you?
agree with that. I agree. I think Ohio State, they've got horses all over the field, arguably have the most talent in college football. The problem is the quarterback. Will Howard is just a sub-game manager, and I think that's what's been holding them back this year. They let Kyle McCord walk away. He goes to Syracuse, and Syracuse goes 9-3 this year with him. They should have kept him instead of having Will Howard. So I like Ohio State to win this game, only because they're at home, and it's going to be cold. Moving on to the next game, Texas and Clemson. Clemson's coming out here to Austin to play Texas. We saw Clemson barely beat SMU last week, and Texas barely lost to Georgia. Who do you like in that game?
Being that I've seen Clemson play, and they struggled to kind of beat SMU. I'm gonna have to go with Texas. Texas has a lot of talent all over the field, offensively and defensively. They're playing at home. Clemson, they just really were glad to be there because they wouldn't be there had they not won the conference. So I think Texas is gonna be able to put it on them.
Yeah, I feel like Clemson kind of backed themselves into the playoff anyway. They got in only because Miami lost, and so I think this season will end for them this weekend coming up or whenever they play in Austin. I think Texas is the better team, like you said. Penn State and SMU, I'll go ahead and take this one. I like Penn State to beat SMU SMU is going up there to play. I don't know. I don't know. Now that I think about it, I really don't know. Actually, I switched that. I'm gonna take SMU
I
against
know.
Penn State. I'm gonna
I
take SMU against Penn State. I don't like Penn State. I don't like James Franklin coaching in big games. Yes, Penn State might have a few more athletes, but I don't like the quarterback Drew Aller. I just don't like Penn State. So I'm gonna take SMU to upset Penn State.
uh that's not gonna happen. Not in Happy Valley, not in the cold. The ponies, no, they've got some athletes, but I looked at them last night. They're just not big and strong enough. They just really aren't. And their schedule that they played is not even comparable to Penn State's schedule. So that will be a blowout. Penn State is gonna win that one. As a matter of fact, I think that's of the games we talked about thus far, that's the one that's going to have the biggest margin of victory. Penn State in a rout.
Okay, and I mean, hey, if that happens, it happens. I just don't like the coach at Penn State. I'm not really sold on what they do, and there is too much variance with that team. Some days they look good, some days they don't. So I'll roll with the underdog in that one. And then Notre Dame and Indiana. That's probably the most interesting game to me on the board. What do you think about that one?
Again, Notre Dame at home is cold up there. Indiana is a cold. As a matter of fact, they're both in the same state, but Notre Dame's probably a little bit further north, I believe. Notre Dame is gonna take that one because they're just a powerful team, and Indiana has some. This will be a good game, but I'm gonna have to roll with Notre Dame.
And I'm going to roll with Indiana. Notre Dame arguably has the best defense in the country, but I like what Indiana does. They moved the ball on Ohio State, but then they started, they fell apart, started turning it over. So I will go with the underdog in this one too. I'm going to take Indiana.
Well, I told you about fading me. You fade your father last week. You fading him twice next week, and that's not gonna happen, son.
All right, then we'll just go through real quick. Then we've got Oregon. Well, let's just we're just gonna talk about those games. We won't predict it all the way through. Who do you? We'll just give our national champion picks now. Who do you have winning the national championship?
Uh, as much as I want to pick Georgia, I know I'm a homer. I just think what I saw from Oregon, this might be their year. Um, they really have a lot of spark on defense, and they've got talent all over. And I did not know that Manuel could throw. I mean, what's the quarterback? Dylan. What's the quarterback for
Gabriel.
Gabriel? Gabriel. I did not know that he was as accurate as he is. I saw him play at Oklahoma, but he's looking much better this year in this system. So I'm gonna probably have to roll with Oregon, and I expect them to meet the Bulldogs in the national championship game. But I'm not sold on Georgia's quarterback, and Georgia may not win their next game if their starting quarterback cannot play. So it depends on how serious that injury is. But Georgia's defense is as good as anybody in the country. But to answer your question, I'm gonna probably go with Oregon.
Yeah, I agree. Oregon's my pick too. After I saw how they looked in the Big Ten championship, they beat Ohio State earlier this year. They just, from top to bottom, they've been the most consistent. Now we don't know what'll happen in this playoff, but from what I've seen out of these teams, um, I like Oregon. Now I will say this: um, I expect Ohio State to beat Tennessee, so that next round matchup is going to be. I don't know. I'm not sure. We'd have to check to see if they reseed after the playoff or after the first round. If the
No,
bracket stays, they don't reseed.
this bracket stays the same.
Okay, so that's a bad draw for Oregon having Tennessee and Ohio State, at 8 and 9 coming up next. They should be playing the lowest seed. That's how they should be doing it. But if Ohio State gets in that next round, even Tennessee against Oregon,
They
I think both of
they
those games, that's a
they
live
they
dog.
would be playing the lower seed because they expect because that 8 and 9 is going to be lower than Penn State a 6 beating on 11, and so they will end up playing the lower seed. They just got them seeded that way. they have to the NC2A needs to rethink this seeding thing because
Yeah.
there's no way that Boise State should be a number 3 seed.
No.
And you got Ohio State a number 8 seed and Tennessee. Both of them teams are smoke Boise State. So
It's no
they got to
reason.
do something with that.
It's no reason that Penn State should be a 6 and Ohio State should be an 8. I don't care if Penn State went to the Big Ten championship. Both of those teams lost 2 games, Ohio State and Penn State, and Ohio State beat Penn State. So if I'm Oregon, I would rather play Penn State before Ohio State or Tennessee. I just would. So they're gonna the college football playoff committee. They're gonna have to do something about this. I don't care what Boise State did. They shouldn't. They being that they're not in one of the Power 4 conferences, they should automatically have to play in the first round. Unless they're on some historic run where they begin the season ranked number 1 and just went out, that's different. But they shouldn't have a bye. They should be playing in the first round. It should be all Power 4 teams in that bye set.
And imagine if your prediction comes through and SMU happens to upset Penn State. In the second round, you got SMU versus Boise. Come on, who wants to see that?
That's ridiculous.
Who wants to watch that? Nobody wants to watch that. So they're gonna have to do something about that. And poor Arizona State, they'll lose to. I think they'll lose to Clemson or Texas, to be honest with you. But they're certainly gonna lose to Texas.
I think Arizona State will beat Clemson. They won't beat Texas. They'll beat Clemson.
I don't know about that.
Because I think Arizona State can beat. I think Arizona State can beat SMU.
See, Arizona State is going to have to play Clemson in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. And Clemson is kind of used to that venue. They've played in a couple of times. They don't have to travel as far. I'll venture to say that Clemson would beat Arizona State, but Clemson ain't going to get the chance because Texas is going to wipe them out.
Hey, after how I saw Arizona State play against Iowa State, I'm a believer in them. Every time I watch Arizona State, they are running over jokers. So
Iowa State.
Clemson, they barely beat SMU.
Iowa State.
Clemson ain't that good. Somebody else beat Clemson too early this year. Clemson's not that good.
Iowa State not that good either, brother.
And Arizona State showed it. They blew them out.
Well, let me just say this. Anyway, but Boise got a free trip to the second round to the Fiesta Bowl, but that'll be their bon voyage because Penn State's going to wax them.
I don't know about that.
See, you just don't like Penn State because you don't like the coach, and especially something that happened the week prior to that. But you know what? You can't let that kind of stuff go with you to the next week.
That coach never wins big games ever. They never win at Penn State. I don't trust him. You're right. I don't trust him. I can see them flying all the way.
Would that be a big game against SMU? That's not really a big. I mean, it's a first round of playoff, but they're far superior to that team.
I can see them not being ready to play. I can see them flying all the way across the country to Boise, Idaho, and losing out there on that blue turf. I can see that.
Well, I don't know if they're going to play that. It's saying that they're going to play in the Fiesta Bowl. So the second round is not. They're playing at neutral sites. So they're going to be playing at the Fiesta Bowl.
Oh, okay. I think
where is that at? Fiesta Bowl is in California. Was that in Arizona?
I think that's a disadvantage. Those teams, these teams that have a bye should at least be able to play one game at home and get some revenue. Are you sure?
Well, I mean, but the revenue that they would get is not equal to what they get for the bowl game. So hey, I think Indiana's playing at Notre Dame. SMU is at Penn State. Tennessee is at Ohio State, and Clemson is at Texas. Other than that, the next game is the Peach Bowl, the Rose Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, and the Sugar Bowl. And you know that those games are played in particular venues. So those are neutral site games.
That's crazy. Well, I guess that's pretty much all I had on the schedule today. Any last thoughts you have before we get ready to watch this game tonight?
No last thoughts. I'm just so glad that we're finally getting together. And hopefully that people out there, you can see some value in our conversations and get an idea of some of the things that we talk about all the time, every day, left and right. I say up, you say down. Sometimes we agree, but a lot of times we disagree. But we have fun doing it. It's all in good. And I'm just so happy and so proud of my son that he does have a little bit of knowledge, but he still has a lot to learn.
Yep, and just remember, channel 1349. Like, share, subscribe. What they say, like, comment, and share. Subscribe to the channel. And so this thing is a little bumpy, our first one, but we're gonna get better and better, and we appreciate all y'all support.
All right. Take care, everybody.